I just finished the Metaphor Refantazio demo 7 hours later, and oh man, this game is really finna be one of those. And so I want to give my first impressions, and also there's going to be spoilers. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of the story. There also was a demo exclusive story preview that showed you what's to come in the future, and there were also a few Easter eggs in there for those of us that are fans of other Atlus titles. And I'll have that video play in its entirety at the end of this one, so you can choose to click off this video if you don't want to have that spoiled, or if you want to just jump over and see what that preview was. When it comes to story, I mentioned we're not going to get into specifics, but I will say it feels like we covered so much, but we also covered so little at the same time. I think a lot of it were things that we saw in the trailer, but with full context of what is actually happening, I would say that it actually feels like I'm playing something that I didn't understand entirely from the story. I think there are a few twists. It's like, oh man, I see where they got us in the trailers and manipulated us there. And when it comes to the cutscenes, there were a ton of those just beautifully animated cutscenes that make it feel like I'm just watching a full-scale production anime. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see an anime come of this. I know they announced the manga at Tokyo Game Show with the demo, and so that would make sense, but like there's just no expense spared when it comes to presenting the story. Now let's discuss combat and gameplay. But before we do, I want to let you guys know that I'm going to be giving away a free copy of Metaphor Refantazio. I have a giveaway running over on Twitter. I'll have a link to it in the pinned comment down below if you want to check that out. I don't think I promoted it on YouTube, so I wanted to do that before the game came out. But now let's discuss some of the gameplay and combat. Now they did label this a demo prologue, and that makes sense because a lot of it was kind of building up Uchronia and setting the story for what's to come in the future, with I believe a few dungeons slapped in it for you to fight and get a feel for the combat. When it comes to Persona games, you know how they'll just like let you free, you get to play in your days when you want and then go into dungeons or whatever on your off days. That actually doesn't even open up until the end of the demo 7 hours later. But it feels like that was an intentional choice, so that way when you get your hands on the actual game, maybe the first 2 hours are going to be a little bit more prologue, but then they can just release you into the calendar system where you have your deadline and you can go to the dungeon, try and clear it day one, and then you have the rest of your time to bond with your followers and do things. I believe they call it like your traits or your king traits, or I forgot what it's called, but you know what I mean. Do things to enhance the protagonist to make sure that his stats are increasing. Now, when we get into the actual combat, the open world combat was actually pretty fluid and it made going through dungeons feel fast. I feel like it did get a little bit wonky when it came to trying to target enemies that were behind you or just not directly in front of you. It wouldn't lock on, so at times I'd find myself getting like surprised by enemies or engaged on. But other than that, the different weapons all have like a different playstyle and like a different range for how far they can hit. Now, separate from the stats that you need, you know, like courage, etc. in other Persona games, separate from that, you can actually enhance your actual protagonist's stats when you level up, and that being like your strength, your luck, agility, etc, etc. And so you can invest every time you level up, you can slot those points so that way you can make your protagonist play however you want. And then when you equip a different archetype, I believe 5 were unlockable in the demo, those are going to also add on top of those stats and take away from some. So I believe when I equipped the mage, it took away some of my strength, but I also got a significant amount of the stat that it correlates with magic damage. So this is going to be something I can see definitely setting everyone's playthrough away from other people's, just because who knows how people are going to build your character, you know? Like that's really going to be up to preference and how you plan to take on endgame. Now, the turn-based combat to me was so similar yet so different than the other Atlus titles such as Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, and I feel like the main differentiating factor is the fact that all of your units attack according to these crystals here. So you can see I have 3 crystals associated with my 3 party members, and then once all of those are done, it's the other team's turn. Now with Persona games, for instance, you're going to be exploiting the enemy weaknesses, and every time you do, you get a second turn, then you can just pass the baton to the next person and just continuously exploit the opponents. With Metaphor Refantazio, that is not the case. If you exploit a weakness, it counts as half a turn, so the crystal will go in half, and then it'll just hand it to the next person. You don't get to choose who goes next, so that way you can continue exploiting it. And I feel like this just makes the game feel so unique in terms of the routes that you can go to defeat enemies. Another thing that factors into that exact same point is that when you yield your turn, it only counts as half a crystal as well. So if you yield your turn and then the next person comes up and they do a weakness exploit, that's going to give you an additional, I believe it's 2 turns, because that's going to have 2 different turns. So you can just continue stringing those attacks once you figure out and get into the rhythm of how to exploit your enemy weaknesses. And there's also a mechanic that if you miss an attack, that's going to yield 2 of those crystals, and so it's going to skip the person next to you's turn. And the same thing happens if your opponent attacks you and they miss. So I think this crystal symbol is the biggest thing that's going to make Metaphor Refantazio entirely different turn-based combat-wise from other Persona games. And then when we get into the being able to equip different archetypes of different party members, I feel like the creativity that's going to come from fighting and building different team comps with this game is just going to be limitless. It's not like Persona where, you know, X party member is tied to the fire element. They have that persona. You can't change it. Everything is customizable for however you want to play your playthrough. I had to go to Kung Fu Tea before I got my thoughts together to just try the Galagataro slushie. Oh my God. So overall, I would say that the experience has been extremely fun. I've been playing Persona 3 Reload in the meantime while I wait, and so I've been in the mindset of the combat when it comes to that game, and being taken and put in the combat mindset of Metaphor Refantazio, it's just completely different. And it also provides like a fun like brain teaser every time I'm fighting in ways where I can like figure out how to maximize my turn. Do I yield a turn because I have a weakness coming up? Do I continue attacking? Which point do I yield so I can maximize the efficiency of this turn? I feel like this is a different thought process from what I had with Persona 3 Reload, where it's just find the weakness, exploit the weakness, all out attack. They also have an auto battle feature where you can actually set different types of settings for how you want the AI to interact, and it's actually pretty smart. I learned a few things about my team comp from just letting the AI play and seeing what moves that they took. I feel like this demo was an amazing move for Atlus because I feel like there's not a lot of people talking about Metaphor Refantazio like they should be, and there are some maybe fringe players who are on the fence about do I want to buy it or not, and I feel like this demo was an extremely solid showing that if you don't like the demo, the game is just not for you, but the demo was good enough to, I feel like, win over a lot of those fringe players who are a little bit iffy about buying the game. These are my first impressions of the Metaphor Refantazio demo. I will be doing a full in-depth review, so make sure that you're subscribing to the channel and checking that out. But now I'll let that exclusive demo story preview play like I mentioned earlier.
It was splendid entertainment while it lasted. However, the revelry ends here.
Thank you for playing to this point. Allow me to once again express how grateful we are to you. However, this is merely a precursor of what is yet to come. You've experienced naught but 3 short days beyond the prologue. This is but a prologue, your first step in your first town. So let us spin this tale. Here begins an adventure all your own.
In that case, we shall meet in Matira, the old castle town. Please, make haste.
What would you like?
This world is wide and vast, full of natural beauty, and full of surprises.
Come on, come on.
In far-flung lands, you will surely cross paths with many fascinating souls.
That's a promise.
Do not fear the unknown. The road ahead is radiant with new and exciting encounters.
What are you making?
Phew, this is turning out nice.
For my move.
Within all mortal hearts dwells the potential of a hero. Awaken the hero within and enter battle with your own power, born of your own way of life.
Persona Master! With dance and mask, I sway the heart. Gunner! My aim is true from any vantage.
So, you've acquired yet greater ability.
This could work. Devil Summoner! The battlefield is mine to conduct. Let's put an end to this. Come forth, Royal Soul! Jack Frost!
This story is full of twists, turns, and upsets yet untold.
Human?
Not bad, kid. Guess you've got some interesting tricks up your sleeve after all.
The truth of the humans is laid bare. If ye would be a true king, then I bid thee prevail.
If we don't kill the thing, we'll all soak.
We're here at last.
You have left us an age of strife. You are powerless to stop it.
Is this not your dream? Then bring it to life! Here and now!
Let's do it. You'll be a hero. Trust me.
Welcome to a world of true fantasy. Metaphor Refantazio.